Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. Hey, we are live. Hello to everybody out there in the interwebs. I am here
out on the interweb.
Yeah, I'm here with Troy and Jessica. They are from Fine Craftsman Lumber. And where are you guys based out of?
Yeah, we're out of Antigo, Wisconsin, up here, Northwoods, southern Northwoods. We're part of actually a larger company. We're part of Kretz Lumber Company that's been around since 1929. And I'm hoping to make it in my career to the 100th anniversary coming up in 8 years. But
wow.
Yeah, we've been around a long time. But Fine Craftsman Lumber is relatively new. So Jess, you probably talk about Fine Craftsman a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, so Fine Craftsman Lumber is just kind of like our retail division or a retail department of Kretz Lumber Company. It's how we handle all of our small orders and anything. We define a small order as anything less than truckload. So whether it's 10 board feet or even if it's 5,000 board feet, we're the ones that usually sort out even those 5,000 board foot orders and get them shipped LTL or on a partial freight truck to somebody.
Awesome. If you guys just tuning in, we are going to be talking about the hardwood industry and the effects that material shortage and what that's done to the industry and pricing, and just talk shop with these guys. This is their expertise, is hardwood supply and milling and all that. So we're going to get into that in just a second. Before I've got people commenting here about is this moonshine? No, it's not moonshine. This is water.
Whatever it takes to get you through the show, Adam.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into kind of diving into it further with these guys, with Troy and Jessica, I'm going to give you some announcements and some updates of things going on inside the Makers Mob, just to keep you posted on that. So we've got people who are on live here who are members, and we've got people who are live with us that are not members. And this is just our free public live that we've started doing. So every Tuesday, you guys feel free to join us here. So I'm going to go jump over to our slides here. What do we got here? I'm doing that. There we go. Oh, I am actually on the wrong slide. I got to go all the way back. Oh, you guys are going to get the sneak peek at my slides quickly. So this is where we're at. We're talking about the hardwood shortage and the industry predictions, which I didn't even tell you guys. I'm going to ask you what you guys think is going to be happening in the next year, just coming up. But like I said, join us Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at the Makers Mob YouTube channel. We're also on a bunch of different Facebook groups. You're probably, some of you may be tuning in from that. So make sure you join us. Each week we're going to have different guests. This week it is Fine Craftsman Lumber. Also, inside the Makers Mob, we just released two Jimmy DiResta voiceover videos where he explains in detail recent projects that he's done, as well as a John Peters modern dresser veneer project with plans as well in there. So that tutorial went live last Friday. You can get that in there inside the Makers Mob. Also for members, we have a live replay available for the live members only live we did 2 Thursdays ago with Cam from Blacktail Studios, where we talked about the epoxy table build that he did, as well as last Thursday. There's also a replay available for that, which was Chris, Third Coast Craftsman, and we talked about his new shop. You can find that in the live section on the site. And then coming up, we got a new tutorial from the Samurai Carpenter in the next couple weeks, which is the bookshelf that he built for his son Asher. There's going to be plans and tutorials available for that, as well as a Kamiko course with Neil Pask from Pask Makes. He's putting that together now, so that's in the next month or so. We're going to be releasing a Kamiko course, which is going to be fun and awesome. This Thursday, in 2 days for members, we're going to do a live with the Samurai Carpenter, and we're going to talk about the bookshelf that he built recently for his son Asher, and we're going to break that down, as well as do a Q&A with him. And then the following Thursday, so this is next week Thursday, John Peters is going to go live as well with me. We're going to talk about veneering and everything, the ins and outs of veneering and how you can incorporate that into your next project. So lots going on. Also, For members as well, this is our giveaway for this month's Project of the Month. If you haven't submitted your project for last month, or for this month, sorry, you still have time. The deadline is May the 2nd, Sunday, and then we'll be giving away this to the winner of that contest. So if you didn't know, Makers Mob, we give away some really awesome prizes to our members for monthly contests, and that's the prize for this month. So get your submissions in if you're a member. And I think, oh yeah, one more thing. If you aren't a member, there's a link somewhere around this video where you can get in for your first month for $4.95. Feel free to click that if you want to get in on all the action, and join us next week. Like I said, every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, we will be going live again. Next week, I'll be interviewing a member, Michael Heinz. I can't remember, Heinzgen, I think is how you pronounce his name. Sorry, Michael, if I butchered your name. We'll be talking about different projects and some inspirational stuff that he's really been inspired by from the Makers Mob. So we're going live next Tuesday with Michael. That is all I have to say. Thank you for listening to that long ramble. Guys, I'm excited to kind of dive into Fine Craftsman Lumber, what you guys do, and get just your expertise and your insight on what's going on inside the hardwood industry right now. We've got a quick 3-minute video that we're going to share with you, and Troy and Jessica are going to just talk to you about their facility. And I'm going to hit play. You guys take it away, Jessica or Troy, whoever's going to be doing the talking. Let me know if you want me to pause it, if you want to explain anything, and I can do that at any time. So,
Sure.
all right.
You can actually wait right away, because one of the things that you don't see right away in the beginning of the video is our ring debarker. So all the logs come in debarked. Debarking the logs just eliminates bark, and you can sell that bark to like landscaping companies. We can also burn some of our bark to fuel our boiler, our wood burning boiler for our kilns.
Yeah.
It also removes dirt and those sorts of things, which is abrasive to your tooling. So we have the ring debarker, and then it comes to our head saw, which now you can start the video.
Before I do that, Jessica, now I know already you're telling me what to do, but I am in control here. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I would love for you,
Get
for
used
people.
to it, Adam.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just going to bring us up large screen first, because some people, we've got twice as many people now as when we started this. So just quickly introduce yourselves again and what you do with Fine Craftsman Lumber, and then we'll go back into the video. So Jessica, why don't we start with you?
So I'm Jessica, and I guess I'll give a brief intro to what Fine Craftsman Lumber is. And Fine Craftsman Lumber is a retail division of Kretz Lumber Company. We're based out of Antigo, Wisconsin, and most of our sales are primarily done online. So you can order your lumber right online, and it ships either UPS or on a freight truck to you. Right now, we currently ship to the lower 48 states. And we serve as little as 10 board feet and go up to as much as you'd like to receive. I guess that's what I have on Fine Craftsman Lumber. My role in Fine Craftsman Lumber is I handle some of the customer service things. I handle majority of our production, whether, pulling the lumber, packaging it. And I do a little bit of website maintenance, a little bit of everything. I write some blog content. But I pretty much do whatever Troy doesn't have time to get done, or whatever he passes off to me, stuff that he doesn't actually want to do.
Yeah.
I'll leave that on to Troy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Troy Brown. I'm actually the president of Kretz Lumber Company. Fine Craftsman Lumber is a division of ours, and for a number of years we would get inquiries that would be less than truckload quantities. So 2 years ago, started to come up with the concept of how we can fill orders of less than truckloads, and we came up with Fine Craftsman Lumber as a mechanism to do that. And I guess along the way, we found ways to expedite orders and get them shipped, like we said, to the lower 48. So it's been an exciting project for me, and to see what it started at and what it's come to has been a good journey. And so, yeah, and I write some of the blogs for Fine Craftsman Lumber. The one we're going to talk about today is one that I authored and edit some of the others. We go back and forth, and as a matter of fact, I think I'm even going to have to ask Jessica what the title of the last blog was, because they changed. you know, you go for search engine optimization, and so the titles can change. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for the introduction. Let's just take a look at your facility and kind of walk us through this. This is just a couple minutes before we start breaking down kind of what's happening in the hardwood industry. So I'll press play now, and you guys take it away.
Yeah, so the first step of it, once we get past this first little slide.
This is a beautiful logo.
Yeah,
you.
There you go.
It is a head saw, and our head saw is a circle saw head saw. A lot of places have bandsaw head saws. The benefit of a bandsaw is the kerf is smaller, so you waste less of the wood. Less of it gets turned into sawdust. But the benefit that we have is we typically only square up the log at our head saw. So you really don't lose any extra waste before it goes on to our line bar. Do you have anything to add to that, Troy?
Yeah, actually, Jess, you mentioned too that we typically debark the logs before they come to the head rig, but today, or when we took this video, we were actually sawing basswood, and basswood has this real stringy kind of bark that really doesn't. It's almost impossible to take it off once we call it the bark starts tightening or the sap doesn't run anymore. So we leave it on. We knock as much of the dirt and rocks off of it as we possibly can, but this is basswood.
Nice. And that machine, how long have you been running that particular machine?
That one actually, those get replaced about every 20 years. That was the carriage, and with the circle saw head rig again, as Jess mentioned,
And you can
we
pause
can get by with
Adam,
that
if you'd like.
Yeah. Let me pause that. There you go. We'll go back a little bit too. So it's every 20 years. You were saying you replace that.
Yeah,
so that'd be this.
Not actually, but the carriage and the tracks that it runs on.
Okay.
You get 20 to 25 years out of a carriage and tracks. You have to always adjust the tracks and the wheels and make sure that everything's level.
Yeah.
But yeah. And there's actually software here now. Our sawmill, it ended up in our old dairy barn, which is kind of interesting. And now it's become like an icon in the industry. The previous mill, when the Kretz family owned the company, we're 100% employee owned, which is kind of a unique ownership structure. But in 1965, the sawmill burned, and the Kretz family wanted to operate as quickly as they possibly could, so they bought the equipment. But in Wisconsin, in the wintertime, you can't break ground for a new mill. So they decided, let's put everything in the barn temporarily. And it's been a temporary mill for the last 56 years.
Wow.
But we get a lot of productivity out of this mill. We saw 5,500 board feet an hour, which for hardwood in we call it our neck of the woods. That's a good productive rate for an hourly rate. So, yeah, this carriage and tracks, you'll either have a circle saw head rig or you'll have a band head rig that'll break the log down in primary breakdown.
Gotcha. I just want to mention, if you guys are tuning in here and listening and you have a question, I would recommend holding your question till kind of towards the end of this, because we will do a Q&A period if you have any questions, and we'll be answering those after. If you put them in the comments now, they might get lost along the live. So just keep them noted and then put them in the chat kind of when we cue you in a little bit here. So I'm going to press play. You guys can continue kind of breaking this down here.
And after the head saw, it goes on to one of our two line bar resaws. This is I think we call it the stub bar, correct, Troy?
Yeah. That actually was purchased when we put the mill in 1965.
Wow.
And so that's just a little band or line bar resaw. This is our bigger one. I think this is. I'm not sure quite how big the wheels are on this, but it's a pretty big.
Those are 6 foot band wheels. Yeah, they're
Wow.
6 feet. Yeah.
And you can see how quickly it moves through. There's a carousel. There's a grater on the far end that's grading the cant and which side to take the face off of.
Yep.
And then they come over to the edger where the edges will get edged for wane. And wane industry term is bark or lack of wood. And pretty much we edge it enough to make sure it makes the grade that it should make. And from there, it goes on to trim saw.
And so briefly just tell us, maybe actually we'll save it to after. I was going to ask you what kind of lumber you guys actually run mostly, but we'll save that till after because that could list on for a while.
I love the term lack of wood. You know, we're very creative in the hardwood industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy's sorting through and grading everything?
Yeah. So after it was trimmed or edged, then it went to a trim saw and was trimmed to length. And everything in the hardwood industry gets trimmed to length 4 inches over length. And this is a grader. He's grading everything. And the person next to him was scaling everything for board footage. And now this is the green chain. So now all the people are piling down based on thickness, length, grade. I think that's it. Thickness, length, and grade.
Yep.
And
So
it all gets sorted out there.
And they're stacking it up for
yep.
for packaging and shipping off, right?
Yep. And
Right.
we also, in addition to our sawmill, we have 16 dry kilns, which we have quite a lot of production out of. And we also have a dimension plant where we can service lumber, S2S, S3S, or S4S.
Nice. So, I mean, that's pretty much the walkthrough of their facility. You can see that these guys obviously are legit. They've got quite the facility. Tell us kind of what is your area of expertise? What is kind of the hardwoods that you guys run mostly in your mill there?
Yeah, we run most of what we run is hard maple. That's the cover, the forest cover type that's grows in this area. Depending on the last 12 months that you look at, it could be anywhere from 45 to 60% of what our sawmill production is. It gets after that it ends up being red oak and then basswood, which we saw in the video. We also saw soft maple, which is a lower density than hard maple, but we try to saw mainly or produce mainly red maple. It's a little bit, it's better density than what silver maple is. So when it goes into different products, it's got a little bit better screw handling capability. It also stains better than silver maple, so we tend to stay on the red maple side of soft maple. We saw white and yellow birch, which is actually becoming less and less predominant, just because they're pioneer species out in the forest, and there's not a lot of clear cutting anymore for various reasons, and so we just don't get that regeneration of white and yellow birch anymore. We do a little bit of cherry. Our cherry grows smaller though in this region, so it's a fraction of a percentage. But one of the things, and we'd love to come back and actually show our dry kiln process at another time, and actually our planing and as Jess mentioned, our rip to width. So the lumber goes from our sawmill over to our dry kilns, and we place it on sticks. And for instance, that basswood will be dried. If it's 4/4, it'll take us 5 days to dry, Jess, somewhere in there on 4/4 basswood.
Depends the time of year. When it's summer and you can get more air time on it, you can get down to like 5 or 6 days. But in the winter, when it goes in dead green, we say at least typically 7 days for 4/4.
Yeah.
Our hard maple we say is 14 days, along with like cherry, ash, white ash, and black ash are 2 species we also saw up here. Red oak, we say typically around 30 days because red oak is
if
just
it goes in green.
dry.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a whole nother process, and
So,
kiln drying is a whole science in itself.
yeah, which is Jessica's expertise. You've got the schooling for what's your title?
So I actually went to a small technical college here in Wisconsin called North Central Technical College, and they have a few different branches. And one of their branches here, actually in Anago, they have a wood technology center of excellence where they have a wood science program. And at the time that I went, it was the only associate's degree in wood science in the U.S. I don't know if that's still the case. But I know at the time that I went, which was 2 years ago, it was the only one in the U.S. So it's really cool that we kind of had it in our back door.
Yeah.
And they have a really state-of-the-art kind of setup there. CNC router, small package kiln. There's actually a vacuum kiln there right now. Rip saw, chop saw, molder. There's actually 2 of them there. There's a new one that came that I've never actually worked on. But then also like wide belt sander. I think I mentioned CNC.
Yeah.
But then they also have a small portable sawmill, so you can learn how to break down logs into lumber and that sort of thing. So you learn the whole thing, the whole process from when the log gets cut down to when it gets turned into a finished product and how that all works. So wood science, drawing science, manufacturing processes, and everything else that goes in between with it. So I kind of have a really broad knowledge on everything, and a lot more knowledge than what a lot of people ever know that there is to know about wood.
Awesome. So we'll do another live and we'll dive into the kiln drying and kind of get we'll pick Jessica's brain and your expertise. But I right now want to turn our focus to the hardwood industry and what the heck has gone on with pricing, with supply in this last while. You had mentioned a blog post that you guys have put out recently, and if you guys want to find that, there's a link I put in the description if you're on Facebook or on YouTube to their website, and you can just find it in, I believe it's one of the tabs where you can find your blog on your website.
Yeah,
is that correct?
I think it's wood resources.
Woodworking resources.
Okay, yeah. So you can find it there. It's a great read. I read it today. Jessica sent it to me. But one of the things that stood out to me when I read that was I fully attributed like the issue that we're having right now with increase in pricing and shortage in some of the lumber. And just to clarify with everybody watching, we're talking about hardwood specifically. We're not talking about, framing lumber and all that stuff. That's totally different. The softwood lumber. I assumed and attributed it to the pandemic and that was the reason and the only reason that we're having these issues. And reading that blog, I definitely learned a lot more than I did before. So Troy, why don't you kind of take us back and break down the kind of what you have seen happen over the years to kind of bring us to this point?
Yeah, when I first started in this industry, and I said I'd never be one of these guys that would say, "Oh yeah, I remember when," but I've become one of those guys that, "Oh, I remember when." So this is hopefully the only time I ever say it. But when I first started in the industry and actually knowing what I'm doing, it was the early 1990s, and there were a lot of furniture manufacturers that were in our region, particularly. I think just about all of our common hardwood, beside basswood, was sold to furniture and cabinet manufacturers that were right here in the Great Lakes region. And then the blog picks up because I said I wasn't going to be one of those guys that would go back that far, but it was in 1999 that the exodus of furniture manufacturing started going to China from the United States, and furniture manufacturers were either setting up plants there and trying to do both, or they were just closing their plants in the U.S. and sourcing from plants in China. And at that time, between like your 1999 and just after that, we'd already lost 1 billion board feet of market share with hardwood. So we were sawing about 12 billion board feet in 1999, and then it was it was just a couple of years after that we were cutting 11 billion board feet. So it didn't really seem like much. And I remember living or reflecting back on that, and we hit the housing bubble then, and just it was pedal to the floor in the hardwood industry, and we didn't even really know that things were starting to recess up in this region, even though we'd lost market share in companies already.
Yeah, and that just to touch on that, the furniture manufacturer moving to China, and that was what I read in your blog there, was due to just like the lower labor costs, right? And
Yeah.
So it's just all going there to
Yep.
keep the cost down, and that's kind of the start of what we're seeing now, all the way back then.
All the way back then, and then you just have these things in history that just kept adding up. The housing bubble burst, and hardwood companies that weren't very well capitalized they closed their doors, were put into receivership or in auctioned off, and that
was that 2008.
2008. Yeah. 2007, 2008, 2009 were very, very hard years in the hardwood industry. And so no one really had any cash to improve their productivity. Most people just, if you could hang on, you would just produce enough, and because you couldn't produce and just keep putting the lumber in your warehouse.
Yeah.
So our workforces started to shrink again. Under investment, and then as the housing started to come back and export, and a lot of lumber went to China between 2011 and 2018, and that takes us up to the next event, the trade war that was in the papers with China. They put retaliatory tariffs on the hardwood industry, and those retaliatory tariffs were up to 25%.
Wow.
And a lot of red oak. It's a lot of red oak and a lot of white ash that gets exported to China. So a lot more mills then lost more market share, and there was a miraculous happening at the end of February in 2020. And all of a sudden, China says we're not going to retaliate tariffs on U.S. hardwoods. And we're like, okay, cool, and started ordering containers. And I remember I did I think it was a radio interview or it was a television interview, and I said, oh yeah, things are going to be great. We just got to get China. They got these health problems. Get through that. And little did I know, 3 weeks later, basically everything in the United States was shut down. And that one really hurt the hardwood industry, because a lot of people hadn't recovered from this, the happenings, all the events that led up to it. And I say a lot of the people, a lot of hardwood producers hadn't been able to recover. So we've got mills then that were just, they closed, even though we were an essential business and we could keep operating. In June, Jess, I remember looking at you and looking at that wall of lumber that we had in our shed, and remember we had it out into the plant. I said, I don't know if we're going to sell another load of lumber. So, but as we didn't know this, but as people were at home and doing things from home, they started to say, hey, let's remodel, let's do this. They were building offices because they were at home. We didn't have any idea what that impact would have on the hardwood industry. Even as things were starting to happen in softwood, we thought, well, okay, that's softwood. We get it, frame lumber and things like that. We knew that housing starts were getting a little bit stronger, but we didn't know we couldn't recover like we did, or like the economy could recover like it did, as quick as it did in homes and home furnishings. And our industry wasn't prepared to increase its production, because we've gone through, these years of buildup of events that have happened. And on top of it, not everybody's back at work yet. And there's things that I don't get political, at least publicly, right, Jess? And but some mills are actually, we want to increase production. You know, we have customers that we're explaining to that we can't get the lumber to you for maybe, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, but a lot of our peers, they're just saying, I can't get people to work for me right now. I need to increase production. I was at a mill and they were running 3 people short. So they're, you know, we just can't fill the production right now. And then supply and demand and simple economics take over, and you know, the price curve and things like that. So that's basically how we got to where we're at today. And we need lumber for our kilns. We saw that video of our mill, and our mill supplies our kilns with about half of the lumber that we dry. So we actually buy lumber from other hardwood mills, and we can't get enough lumber from other hardwood mills to fill our kilns. So it's not anything that's going to correct itself for some time that we see.
Well, that leads me into kind of the next thing is I want to get kind of a your take on just what you've seen as far as price increases yourselves. Like, what is the percentages, or can you give us an idea of a specific maybe maple, just like a regular maple, or I don't know. Let me know, tell us what the increase has looked like for you guys.
Sure. And here's an example. Our purchasing manager for our hardwood lumber came in the other day, and for select white hard maple, he has to, and this is green lumber to go into our kiln. He is paying, or he was, and this was 2 weeks ago. He was paying $400 $1,000 more for select white hard maple than what we were selling it dry for in June. So yeah, and so
say that again. How much more?
$400 $1,000 more for the green lumber to go into the kiln than what we were selling it for dry in June. So
let me break that down for you, because Troy's using some industry lingo. So $400 $1,000. He's saying $400 more per 1,000 board feet. So just in case you didn't know, that's what he's saying. So that
that's good. Thank you for clarifying that.
4 cents a board foot, right? If I can do my math right and move my zeros the right way.
More, which I mean, when you're dealing with in the quantity that you guys are dealing with, I mean, that adds up quick, right?
Oh yeah, and actually that's gone up since then. It's probably gone up $100 $1,000 since 2 weeks ago. That's just how little lumber that there is. So yeah, it seems like we're getting a penny increase, you know, every day. So yeah, it's crazy out there, and I've never seen anything. No one's seen anything like what we've seen today. So
a year ago, speechless. Troy and I were looking at a wall of lumber, and now, since what I would say the beginning of this year, our warehouses are empty.
And you just can't get that lumber from
I mean, in the hardwood industry, to have all your lumber sold out 4 weeks is kind of crazy. I mean, Troy, has that ever happened in your career where your salesmen are all selling all their lumber a month out?
No, it's never happened. So it's really stressful, actually, because you've got great customers, and it seems like every day you're communicating with them, and you just always, hey, I'm 4 weeks out from even taking an order from you. So those are, like I said, I really don't see. I don't know what the end game is here. And then I'm out and I'm advertising that or promoting hardwood lumber against substitute materials, and then I don't have any lumber to sell.
Yeah, exactly. So I have 2 questions then that I just thought of from what you just said. The first one is, do you think that this is kind of the new pricing structure that we're going to see? Do you think it's going to bounce back ever, or do you think like this is it and it's just going to be what it is from now on?
Yeah.
What do you think?
And Jess, actually, that that $400 1,000, that's 40 cents a board foot. So
Oh, 40 cents.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, 40 cents
I knew
a
I
board
was doing
foot.
something
So,
wrong.
so
40
it's,
cents a board foot.
yes, and that's up 50% from June on the green lumber. So those are big numbers. So
Like, is it here to stay?
what's the end game? Is it here to stay? I have to say no, it's not here to stay. If there's one thing that hardwood producers get good at, and that's outproducing demand. That's one thing that I've seen all the way through my career. is hardwood producers can outproduce demand. But I think the where it's going to lie is it could lie on the consumer. Like I said, we've had so much time that we've had underinvestment in this industry. It's going to take it's either going to take these substitute products, or it's going to take some the housing situation right now, I think, is a little bit concerning. But what we're seeing actually is more demand, and builders or contractors have been still pretty conservative, not like during the housing bubble when they started building houses without having buyers. Right now, it seems like we've learned a little bit, and we've got this whole millennial group now that is looking for housing. So there was this period of time where millennial generation waited a little bit before they housing, and it seems like every generation has waited just a little bit longer. And now the millennials, which are bigger, that generation is bigger than the baby boomer group, is looking for is in the market, and I'm glad that I don't have to look for housing now, because it's very
wild.
hard to come by, really.
Yeah.
And there are some people too, and again, this isn't about framing lumber, but people more in my generation are saying, you know what, we're going to put off building. You know, we think that this thing has gotten a little bit out of hand, and so let's put it off. But contractors that I talk to say if one person passes, there's another one waiting to build. So it's crazy, but I'm pretty confident that before my career ends, that we'll outproduce the market again. We're pretty good at that. So
you'll figure it out.
When that happens, I don't know if anybody really knows. I think right now, for the foreseeable future, prices are going to continue to go up.
Yeah. So it's not like put your projects on hold for a year because it'll be back. It's, who knows, may never come back, or it may take time, right?
It's going to take definitely some time. And I know a lot of people are saying that it could be looking this way for the next year, with prices looking the way they are, continuing to go up before they fall back down again. And I know from my little bit of experience, I'm young and still have a lot to learn, but usually the hardwood industry is slightly behind the softwood industry, because your hardwoods are what's getting put in, your finishes in the home, versus your softwoods are all the stuff to start your project. Softwoods are the 2x4s and all your OSB and your core material and plywood, but your hardwoods are your flooring, your molding and millwork and cabinets and windows and doors, and those all get put in later. So when you take from a construction frame mindset, it's softwoods will catch up before hardwoods will, because hardwoods will still be in demand longer to finish out those projects.
Yeah. So I have a question, but I just want to prompt everybody. If you guys are watching and you have a question for Troy or Jessica, feel free to put that in the chat now. We're going to get to those in just a second. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask you, what did I want to ask you? I actually had I just forgot. Well, yes, this is it. Sorry about that. The substitute material you had mentioned. What would you suggest if people are having a hard time finding the lumber that they're looking for? What would you suggest as an alternative to what they can get in hardwood, or what is the hardwood that you guys are finding is like kind of the most available that you guys have? So kind of speak to that availability and what people can be using.
Yeah, it seems like maple is one of the tougher available species right now. And really everything is kind of tough to get. But maple is our product, and actually oak too, because Jess and I were just talking about a less than truckload customer that's looking for more product, and it would be a new customer. And as we were sitting down and saying, okay, what could we fit in here? Maple and oak were the two toughest to try to fill on those orders. So those are tough. And when I talk about competing products, I always think along the lines of flooring. In like paneling, you see so many substitutes that are engineered. In a flooring, you got the laminated vinyl tiles, you've got ceramic tiles with the wood grain look. And here's a whole nother topic that there's studies about how the health benefits of real wood and things like that. But I won't get into that. I'll sell that a different day. There's just not a lot of wood out there.
Yeah.
But I could say, okay, yeah, if you're looking for maple, this is available, and it's just there's not a lot. Like Jess said, our warehouse, the only inventory that we have in our warehouse is waiting to build for a truck, and that's it. So it's basically it's empty. And
I know white ash. I know sometimes it depends kind of what our inventory looks like, but I know a lot of people struggle with white ash. Where to go with it? We have a pretty good overseas customer that takes a lot of our white ash and will thermally modify it. But if it's something like red oak, if you're going to put a stain on it, white ash can easily get used instead of red oak if you put a stain on it, because they look very similar when you have a stain on it. The only difference is really the ray cells that you can notice, and the only people that notice that are wood geeks like me. So, but I guess we just don't have a lot of inventory. And I know what Troy is saying too, on like the substitute mindset, with a lot of people that on a wholesale level that you compete against, whether it's, we would much rather see like engineered flooring even do better than your LVT and whatever
a wood
luxury vinyl
floor.
tiles and all that, just because they're using usually a hardwood lumber substrate on top of the or laminate on top of the Baltic birch substrate. But that was a good question, because it had my gears turning as to what could woodworkers use right now when prices are high. And I don't have a good answer to it yet, actually.
Well, I have a question here that maybe you will have the answer for. I'll pull it up on the screen here. How do you think this will affect woodworkers and those with small sawmills? Any feeling on that? Do you think we're going to see some like wood shops and that shut down? From what I've talked to, from people I've talked to, like people are still busy. It's just prices are increasing.
Yeah, I don't think that we're gonna see such a shortage that woodworkers are totally going to run out of material. And there are a lot of, we go on Facebook Marketplace, and there's wood, available on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Now, quality of wood from different sources. I do think that some of these, I thought I saw that one of the portable sawmill they were like 10 months out to deliver on portable sawmills. So that tells me that people are starting to invest in sawmilling, and and some of them take it right from the stump right through to the woodworking project. And I've seen some really cool things like that. But so I don't know if that helps answer the question or creates.
No,
I think a lot of it too is that you have to remember that if you have to pay more for your raw materials, you have to charge more for the finished product.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that economics works. And it's not that sawmills are trying to gouge their customers, because at the end of the day, that doesn't help anybody. It's just that like Troy mentioned, we're paying more for the green lumber, and we still have to dry it, and we still have to make a profit on it too.
Yeah.
So it's all, when supply is low and demand is high, and the price just goes up, and that's the way it goes. And it's the same thing is said with whether you're making cabinets or custom furniture. If your raw materials cost more, you have to charge more for your products.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how big the supply chain is in the hardwood industry, isn't it, Jess? I mean, when we talk about from, you know, the stump, you know, there's processing costs on the stump, there's shipping costs to the mill, there's the mill processing, there's the shipping to a dry kiln facility, the drying process. I mean, it's a huge supply chain. And I was at a meeting all day today with a logging group, and it really hits you in the face when you start to see what the supply chain looks like, and any bump in the supply chain really causes some heartache and heartburn for people.
Yeah, ripple effect all the way down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. We're going to get this going. I have one question here that is, I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this or that, but where is the 40 cents per board foot going? Who's pocketing it? Is it like, what is actually, maybe touch on that. What is actually causing that 40 cent a board foot to go up?
Yeah, again, that's just the supply and demand.
Yeah.
And ultimately, somewhere in the supply chain it goes, and it should end up filtering down to the person that actually owns the wood. And I say that owns the woods, and so that starts to go there. But sometimes you get into the supply chain that the timing of it can end up going into different people's pockets. But it's always temporary. In our industry, you can get caught now. Now, what we worry about is that we've got the high cost of inventory, and then when the market starts to come down, then we end up, that's where we end up losing money. Where you end up making money is if you buy the inventory at this price and prices start to go up. So it does get distributed into people's pockets, no doubt about it. But it also
not yours.
Yeah, well, you always hope it is yours.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing to touch on too is that okay, our logs that we buy in for a sawmill, we're paying more for those logs because those logs are worth more value. And we work with a lot of private landowners, and they know if we won't pay them more for it, they can find somebody else that will pay them more for it, because they know that their logs are worth value. And that value is dependent on just based on the demand and the supply and demand chain of the whole thing. That's really what it all comes down to. Is once again, supply is low and demand is high, and it just keeps driving the price up. And that makes the value of that timber go up too.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
a really good question, though, because I get that a lot is, okay, who's getting rich off of this?
Yeah, exactly. Want to know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you guys. If you guys want to check out Fine Craftsman Lumber, there's a link in the description wherever you're watching on Facebook or YouTube that goes to their site. You can find that blog post on the blog section of their site and take a look around. We'll have you guys back for sure. I'd love to hear more about the kiln drying process and kind of pick at Jessica, your brain and your expertise in that area. So thank you guys for joining me. I'll just quickly end with a reminder that you guys can join me next week. I'm going to be interviewing Michael Heinzgen, from a member of the Makers Mob. We're going to talk about some projects he's done recently. And then the following Tuesday, I saw Rob Rojas from Rojas Carpentry. He's joined us on the live here. He commented. I'm going to be interviewing Rob Rojas on just about what he does in a small business that he's got. You see him on Instagram. He's producing a lot of cutting boards and a lot of unique little projects and stuff that he does. So excited to have Rob join us in a couple weeks. So if you did want to get in on the Makers Mob, click that link around you and you can get in on the action that we had talked about at the beginning of this. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Troy and Jessica, why don't you say your farewells here?
Yeah, Adam, thanks for having us and Makers Mob, and we look forward to coming back again sometime, and maybe we can come back with some better news that there's more lumber available. But we do have lumber in stock. So
there you go, there you go. If you guys need anything, make sure you hit up their site. You deliver all throughout the bottom 48 states, correct?
Lower 48.
Correct.
Yeah, lower 48. I'm a Canadian. I don't know the terminology.
Sounds good. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you for interacting and following us through all the way to the end here. We appreciate you guys. We will see you guys next week, Tuesday, May 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Find me and Michael here chatting. So thanks, Troy. Thanks, Jessica. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
We're going to sign off. So thank you guys. Have the great rest of your evening. Adios, everybody.